Over the last couple of months, I've realized something crucial about succeeding on the carnivore diet, and there is a specific approach you can take to make it work for you, no matter what your goal is. Is it weight loss? Is it reducing brain fog, improving mental health, or getting superhuman energy levels? And I can admit that for the longest time, I didn't do it the right way. And I think that listening and taking inspiration from other people, listening to what that person has to say, and even people who doesn't share the same opinion with you, even listening to those people, just hearing other perspectives, that's absolutely great. But the problem here is that you don't want to live in this bubble. You don't want to consume only the same opinion again after again and live in this bubble, because if that's the case, you're screwed. Just think about it. That's kind of the point of science, to try to prove things wrong and then come closer and closer to the truth. But we never have the facts straight from the beginning. So it's very unrealistic that what you know right now is 100% correct, and that you never should change your opinion again. And the reason why I'm talking about this is that the majority of people, most people on this earth, are somehow in some type of bubble. They're in a bubble of listening to the mainstream media, going with the crowd, going with the consensus. And if you are on carnivore right now, or you have kind of woken up to the fact that everything that the mainstream media has been pushing all these years, the food pyramid, all these things being bad for you, which really aren't bad for you, like saturated fat, cholesterol. If you now have started to go against this, and you have started to come up with other beliefs, and you have started to actually research, try out yourself, then I want to tell you congratulations, because you are clearly open-minded and you are smart enough to think critically for yourself and not believe every single thing that everyone around you has been telling you all your life and is also themselves believing. And another mistake that I've certainly done in the past, and so many others are doing time and time again, is picking out an expert, picking out someone who's talking about a way of living or diet or whatever, and just blindly following that advice. You should never just blindly follow an expert advice and not ask yourself questions and try out and actually critically think for yourself. You should never do that. But I see two big reasons why a lot of people fail on carnivore, and there are also three very important questions you need to ask yourself and test to see what kind of carnivore that should you do and what will work for you in the long term. And these are very important things, so make sure to actually watch this and actually pay attention. So the first very important thing that you do, and this is not only for the carnivore diet, this is for any diet, this is for any habit, anything in your life really, and that will be N equals 1, or N of 1. And I don't know if you heard this before. I've certainly talked a bit about it in the past, but I want to just emphasize how important it is to experiment with yourself. So usually where this comes from is that usually you have some sort of experiment when N equals 50, for example. That means that you have 50 people taking part in a study. For example, you can have a study on a vegan diet versus a carnivore diet. You have 25 people doing the vegan diet, 25 people doing the carnivore diet, and then you see what are the differences, what are the results of that study. You can run it for 6-8 weeks, whatever. The point here is that when you have N equal 1, what that means is that you are conducting the experiment and you're doing it on yourself. And this is the most important study you will ever do, because you can find studies on whatever you want to. Whatever your opinion is right now, whatever your stance on carnivore, on veganism, on whatever, you can find evidence for that or against anything else. Because, people have different opinions, and when these studies are being conducted, you can just skew them whichever way you want to. So the most important thing is not what some study says or what has worked for other people. It will be what will work for you. So N of 1, N equals 1, do these experiments. And the point here is that you need to try out, you need to see what works for you. And the faster you get to know these things and know your body and what your body reacts well with, the faster progress you will have and the better your life overall will be. And to give you a concrete example of N equals 1 is when I started carnivore, because back then I did a lot of research and I looked at the best ways to do the carnivore diet, and I concluded that most people are on the page that dairy is not good to include on your carnivore diet, that you should just focus on red meat and eggs. That's it. Don't eat dairy because it's addictive, it's pro-inflammatory, it will spike your blood sugar and your insulin, all of these things. So I didn't take any dairy for the first 5 months being on carnivore. But a few weeks ago, I noticed that I have some problem with my sleep and I really want to fix it. So I started researching it more and more, and I came to the conclusion that I need to try something else because what I was doing wasn't working as I wanted it to. So I included a bit of dairy into my diet. I used some cottage cheese and some Greek yogurt, and the benefits of it in only a couple of weeks has been insane. You know, my sleep has been a lot better, and I'm more full, I'm more satiated as well, which is very interesting because a lot of people say that you will overeat, overconsume dairy, and you will have all these negative side effects, but I haven't really noticed any of them. I felt very good, and in the past I used to get pretty bad spots and acne from dairy, but I don't know, it might be that my body has just healed from this carnivore diet, that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, things can change over time and I will adjust accordingly, but this is the reason why it's so important to not just listen to all these experts and to listen to mainstream. You need to do and conduct your own experiments, because if I hadn't done my own experiment, if I had just listened to all the carnivore YouTubers, carnivore influencers, I would have not taken dairy back into my diet. So that is the most important thing. Do your own experiments. And then we come to probably the number one thing, the most important thing that trumps everything else in this video at least, and that is consistency. Because consistency is key, not only with starting a carnivore diet or any type of diet, it's starting any type of habit or anything you want to succeed with in life. Because it doesn't matter if you go intense, you go hard, you go lion diet for 30 days and then you quit. It doesn't matter, because 30 days will not make a big difference in terms of your whole life. So consistency first, intensity second. And here it's the same thing as, you know, starting the lion diet, going intense for 30 days, or for example starting to go to the gym. Because if you go to the gym, you train intense for 1 week or whatever, you have this very hardcore training program, you train it hard for a week or 2 weeks, then you quit. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to sustain this over long periods of time, ideally till the day you die. So that is the mindset you need to have. You need to be able to do it consistently. And this is the reason why there is no point of being very strict, having all these rules, if you can't follow them. So, for example, some people, they don't want to start carnivore because it's too strict. You know, they still want to have some avocados, some blueberries, or maybe their coffee, and they just think that I can't only be eating meat and eggs. So, what I would, in that case, consider is to stick with that. Go with a more animal approach to the carnivore diet, and then maybe over time you will realize that, alright, maybe I would like to only eat meat and eggs, maybe I would feel better, and then you transition more slowly. Don't throw away the good for the perfect. That is the message with consistency. But the point of keeping something consistent is not that, alright, I want to have a little bit of garbage food, some junk food in my diet, so because I know I can keep that. That is not the point. The point is that, you know, start with something that you know you can keep up, and then gradually you increase and increase. It's the same thing as if you go to the gym, it's progressive overload. So over time, you do it more strict, and at a pace that you can keep up so you can do it for the long term. Alright, so when you have this mindset, you're ready to keep it consistent and you are willing to do experiments on yourself and see what works for you. I would say that there are 3 good questions to ask yourself when you're starting carnivore to see how you react to things. And the first one will be your fat to protein ratio, because everyone is different here and it really depends on your background, on how active you are and what body size and everything, your metabolism. And if your fat to protein ratio, usually for most people starting carnivore, to aim for around 70 to 80% of your calories coming from fat is a good idea, and then around 20 to 30% coming from protein. That's a pretty good split, but here again, you need to see, like, how do you feel, like, do you work better on higher fat or lower fat, and, you know, go from there. But here again, it's very important to experiment. Like, without experimentation, you can't possibly know this. You can't possibly know what you feel the best on. But usually you should have a set amount of protein and then adjust your fat according to how active you are and how much energy you use up during the day. And the second thing you want to look for is electrolyte balance. And especially in the beginning, you know, when you're losing all this water weight and you're transitioning into the carnivore diet, it's very important to take enough electrolytes, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium. It's very important. So to try to supplement to see on which amount do you prefer. And the third thing you want to experiment is what type of meat do you prefer. And I'm not only talking about the taste, like how well does it taste. I'm talking about more specifically how well does your brain and your body react to the meat and the foods you're eating? Because for some people, especially ones that have autoimmune issues, ruminant meat might be the only thing that they can really eat and feel good on. Because even if you are talking about animal products and staying within the carnivore diet, it looks very different for everyone. And the difference that, for example, beef, pig, or even chicken can have on you varies quite a bit. So it's very important to see what kind of meat do you feel best on. How about fish? Do you feel good on fish? Do you get good energy from it? Is your mind very clear when you eat some sort of food? And eggs, like how do you react to eggs? Because personally, for me at least, I've noticed that eggs are really good for me. You know, I feel great on eggs. I can digest them very well. I can eat them before going to bed and falling asleep very well. But then I compare that to ground beef, for example. I love ground beef. I work very well with ground beef, but it's harder to digest. I don't want to eat it too close to bedtime. And this is just something you need to experiment with. And as I said, you know, I'm from Finland, and usually in the Nordics, we can tolerate lactose and dairy a lot better. So I think it might be in just my genes that I tolerate dairy very well. But here again, you know, I've experimented, I've done the testing, so I know that, you know, I tolerate dairy pretty well, at least for now. We'll see in the future. But this is just something you need to find out what kind of foods, what kind of carnivore meats do you feel the best on. But that will be it for today. But please, before you go, make sure to comment down below what has been your experiment with testing out and experimenting with different foods. You know, comment that down below. What foods has worked for you? Which foods are definitely a no-go for you on carnivore? This way you can help other people. And make sure to like the video if you think that this message is important. Eat meat, take care, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.